sees the means of production, and the like and subscribe button.
So pretty tough language from the Iranian president there on this possibility. But again, three sources familiar with the situation telling us.
Yeah, it seems like U.S. intelligence officials who might be a little bit less MAGA-brained. The U.S. intelligence community has long distrusted Israel because if you're intelligent, you distrust Israel. No, like the Mossad has not been a good ally to us for a long time. You know, NSA, CIA, they're aware of the fact that Israel has not been a good ally to the United States, and they are the ones who are leaking information suggesting that Israel's looking to attack. Now, the U.S. intelligence community and the U.S. government work together, obviously, but they don't have exactly the same interests, right? Kind of like a deep state dynamic going on there. Though in this case, the real deep state is the military-industrial complex, which definitely had a talk with Trump at Camp Davis. Camp Davis? Oh my God, I've memory hold myself between Camp David and Camp Davis. I can't believe it. It's Camp David. I'm stupid. Yeah, no, I know it's Camp David. I know it's Camp David. In my head, I was thinking it can't be Camp Davis, but if I think that, it must be. I'm gonna Sam Harris, Sam Cedar this. I talked about Camp David 50 times on stream without having this issue, okay? Camp Darren, Camp Dingus. What was I talking about? Anyway, Trump had a meeting there at Camp David 4 days ago, and since then, the administration has shifted wildly on its rhetoric with regards to the ongoing talks with Iran, which Trump had previously been really optimistic about. Trump was talking over the course of 5 meetings between Trump's diplomatic officials and Iranian officials in Oman, where they were discussing the, you know, a possible deal that Iran could break with regard to like nuclear enrichment. Trump has been optimistic about this deal for some time, but randomly a few days ago, he shifted on it and he was like, actually, I don't think a deal can happen, which is wild because Trump is not the kind of person to say he doesn't think he can secure a deal, you know? So it looks like things have ramped up very, very, very quickly. I don't know. It's pretty grim.
That Israel is considering some kind of military action against Iran in coming days.
And Louis, the U.S. and Iran are set to have more nuclear talks on Sunday. Now Iran's threatening to strike U.S. bases in the Middle East if the talks fall through. How's the Pentagon reacting to that?
Well, Steve Witkoff is scheduled to have a 6th round of negotiations with the Iranians in Oman this Sunday. That's according to a source who's familiar with that information. What we do know is that yesterday, as you mentioned, the United States State Department and the Pentagon essentially authorized or ordered civilian dependents in some of the countries, specifically Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, to leave the region. Now, I think part of what that is based off of the concern that Iran may retaliate.
I don't think Trump is posturing to start conflict with Iran. This is very similar to the lead up to the Ukraine-Russia war. No, what I think is that Israel has been wanting war with Iran for a long time, and what they've been looking for is essentially permission from the United States. And Trump has not given that permission. He's very explicitly condemned Israel and any attacks on Iran over the course of these talks. And as a consequence, it's basically been a no-go because directly defying Trump, everyone knows that would lead to a crash out, right? But it seems like someone had a talking to with Trump and now they've secured that permission. So Israel's going to go ahead, yeah, enforce the issue. There will be no more negotiations. It will just be war between Iran and Israel. Now, what form that war would take, I don't really know, like ongoing bombings. We did divert anti-drone and missile weaponry from Ukraine over to Israel recently. So, you know, maybe we expect them to hunker down. We want to protect them from counterattacks from Iran. We also have a bunch of bombers stationed at a nearby airbase that's been ramping up its capacity lately. So maybe all I'm saying is it looks like Mike Waltz might get what he wants, you know, which is unfortunate.
All right, now to the Middle East, where U.S. officials are taking preemptive measures after Israel warned it is considering a strike on Iran. Multiple sources tell CBS News Israel is fully ready. Iran has warned such an attack could lead to possible retaliation on U.S. bases in neighboring Iraq and other countries. And I want to bring in CBS News intelligence and national security reporter Olivia Gazit.
No way Israel believes they can win by themselves. Well, the stated goal from Israel is to knock out Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities. The problems are thus. First of all, Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities are extremely well fortified. We're talking concrete bunkers under hundreds or even thousands of feet of mountainside. You know, we're talking like extremely fortified structures. So it's possible that they might not just be bombable. You know, they might just not be like bunkers are pretty overpowered. They're high tech, you know? We, the United States, have nuclear bunkers that can survive direct nuclear attacks, you know? We have like bunker buster bombs, but there are limits, you know? Eventually you dig a hole deep enough, you're probably fine. So it's possible that Israel might just not be able to meaningfully destroy these facilities. But of course, the real reason that Israel wants this is because it keeps Netanyahu's war cabinet going, right? Like, Israel can only exist in the context of war. There will never be a peaceful Israeli state, at least not with this population, not with this government, you know? Israel is a war state. It exists and it thrives and it legitimizes itself off of conflict with neighboring, you know, largely Muslim groups. So in that context, they need this war because people are getting pretty tired of the Gaza conflict. Even Zionists are having a difficult time maintaining this line. The hostages line doesn't really work now that like all of them are returned basically or dead. It just doesn't land as well. They need something new.
This, who is live at the State Department. Olivia, good to see you. What's the latest intel on this threat?
Good morning, Tom. Well, concerns about the possibility of an Israeli strike have been percolating for a while, with Israeli officials arguing that now is the time to strike Iran's nuclear program in its weakened state with its proxies effectively eroded. Things took a more dramatic turn yesterday as the U.S. began ordering its military and diplomatic personnel stationed in the region to move away out of concerns that an Israeli strike could trigger Iranian retaliation, as you said, on U.S. personnel stationed there. Embassy Baghdad is the biggest military and diplomatic outpost we have, but there's also personnel stationed in Kuwait, in Bahrain, and we're awaiting to see whether there's additional movements ordered there. Typically, the State Department likes these things to be done in private to make sure that people can get to safety. They get where they want to go.
By the way, it's worth keeping in mind that any rhetoric you hear about Iran antagonizing is manufactured consent. Iran has been very consistent for months, for years now, on where it stands, on what it wants, on what it's negotiating for, on what the stakes are. This recent shift in the past few days is 100% from Israel and America. Israel has long wanted to attack Iran. It seems like they have the go-ahead now. Trump suddenly backing off future diplomacy. The shift has been from us, not from Iran. Before
any sort of public announcements are made, there is some thinking that the overt way in which all of this has been happening is...
Admittedly hearsay, but I've heard Israelis have been polled and anti-Palestinian sentiment has gotten incredibly high. Oh, no. Polling has consistently shown time and time again that the Israeli population is Hitlerite, like literally. Like a significant, in some cases, majority of the population want the complete extermination of the Palestinian people. It's not, it's like that. I know we use the term Hitlerite broadly here, which I defend and will continue to do, but legitimately the questions are like, do you think the entire population of the enemy should be exterminated? And like 48% of Israelis say yes or something. It's absolutely insane.
So that the U.S. can send a signal to all interested parties in the region about the stakes of a strike.
The only sane future for Israel is like forced UN occupation for 100 years. And by the way, if you look at like support from the American population, basically like an overwhelming majority of Democrats are now more sympathetic to Palestinians. So when you see Democrats continuing to hem and haw and hand wring and pearl clutch over Israel, they are not doing that to appeal to the voters. 100% an MIC consultancy class thing.
And potentially forestall military action, but we are very much in a wait-and-see moment right now.
Yeah, so Olivia, you mentioned that the U.S. is moving non-essential personnel from the embassy in Baghdad. What else are they doing in the event that things escalate?
Well, interestingly, they are maintaining diplomatic channels open with Iran. CBS News is told that Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to travel overseas to Oman for a sixth round of nuclear talks with Iranian negotiators this weekend. This is coming as...
I recall Israeli 2 years ago being much more against Netanyahu. Is that still the case? Yeah, it is. They want to replace Netanyahu with someone more murderous. Like, the opposition to Netanyahu is not because they think he's being too brutal against the Palestinians. That has nothing to do with it.
The UN watchdog in Vienna, the IAEA, this morning formally deemed Iran to be non-compliant with its non-proliferation obligations, and that opens the door to snapback UN sanctions that Iran is vociferously protesting, calling the IAEA's move political and biased, and all of it adding to the very complex diplomatic picture that negotiators are entering into, all overshadowed, of course, by this potential specter of military strikes.
Olivia Gazas, following this tense situation from the State Department. Olivia, thank you for that analysis. And for more on this, let's bring in CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd.
No, that's all right, I think. Unless, I'm pretty sure the propaganda here is that Iran actually isn't threatening to attack U.S. bases. No. Iran has said that they would retaliate against U.S. bases if these things fall through. But you can't really blame them for that, because Iran is essentially saying, if you attack us, we'll counterattack you. You know, and like, I don't know. I guess that makes sense to me a little bit. I understand the logic there. Yes, this did also happen recently, though I'm not sure what the direct relationship is. Oh, look at that. Update on the left. Trump urges Israel not to strike Iran amid reports that attack could be imminent. U.S. president says we're fairly close to a pretty good agreement. Dude, he's so all over the place. He just said 3 days ago, I don't think an agreement's going to happen. They're asking for things that aren't possible. He literally just... Okay. Don't get too involved. He's deranged. His brain is soup. You can't get too committed. We need a taco emote. Nah, the Schumer made the taco thing cringe. I'm not getting in on this. He literally just said he does not think we're going to get that good deal with Iran. He literally, hold on, let me find the clip. Oh, well, this is from, oh God, there's so much.
Israel so far, I feel keen to fight.
What do you make of the Ayatollah saying that they have to enrich? They have to be able to
No, they won't be enriching. If they enrich, then we're going to have to do it the other way. And I don't really want to do it the other way, but we're going to have to.
What's your latest?
There's not going to be enrichment.
Where's the clip?
Prime Minister Netanyahu, you just mentioned Iran. Did you discuss Iran?
Very
Did you
well.
discuss
the
Gaza war?
Yeah, we discussed a lot of things, and it went very well, very smooth. We'll see what happens. You know, we're trying to do something with a country we just spoke about, Iran. I think you should negotiate this. You might be better.
This isn't the one either. He explicitly said, okay, whatever. We all know what he's like. My theory is he's waiting for the green light but said things too fast. My theory is that he just repeats what he's told. I don't know, man. This is from 2 hours ago.
Israeli strike on Iran?
Well, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like it's something that could very well happen. Look, it's very simple, not complicated. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Other than that, I want them to be successful. I want them to be tremendous. We'll help them be successful. We'll trade with them. We'll do whatever is necessary. You know, I stopped a war between India and Pakistan.
I heard that, yeah.
And I stopped it with trade. I don't think I've ever seen a story written about it, but it's pretty cool. They were getting ready. Pakistan was their turn to hit, and eventually they're going to go nuclear. And I stopped it. I called each. I respect each leader greatly. And
it's so fucked up that in a woker world, Donald Trump would be like the best Huey Long president, Huey Long-esque president the United States has ever seen. You know, he would be laughably incompetent, inconsistent, and definitely racist. But he would just drag the country kicking and screaming forward into an era where it is in fact cool and funny to like casually threaten CEOs. On TV, you'd say like, they're not good like me. I was the best CEO. I did a very good job. I knew what I was doing. These people, they're jokes. They're jokes. They don't know how to run a company. They shouldn't be running anything. They should be running for their lives, if anything, if you know what I mean. And it would just be that for like 8 years. It would be fantastic.
And I spoke to them and I talked about trade. I said, but you're not trading with us if you're going to go to war. If you're going to start throwing nuclear weapons around. And I said it to both of them, and they were both unbelievable, actually. They understood it exactly. They stopped. I stopped that war with phone calls and trade. And India's here right now negotiating a trade deal, and Pakistan's coming, I think, next week. And I'm very proud of that. Nobody died. Nobody... the nuclear weapons, they each have very severe, very substantial numbers of nuclear weapons.
Is any of this question dedicated to Israel and Iran, or was it all just him bragging?
And I think we should get some credit for that. You know, the whole Republican Party should, because that's their mindset. Please.
Okay, It was just him talking about, okay, gotcha. Witkoff privately warned top Senate Republicans last week that Iran could unleash a mass casualty response if Israel bombs their nuclear facilities, according to a U.S. official with source direct knowledge. Well, this makes sense because Witkoff is in charge of negotiating a deal with Iran. So, of course, he would argue, like, well, if we don't get the deal, Iran's going to do a lot of damage. Did he really prevent war with India and Pakistan? No. He had nothing to do with it. Padilla? Okay. All right.